Bonjour, Kinamagi Nene Ireland Adishnikas, and welcome to today's episode of Social Studies Explorer. Tonight's episode, Chapter 7, Section 6, The New Government. George Washington once said, "Liberty, when it begins to take root, is a plant of rapid growth." What do you suppose he might have meant by that? Keep in mind, in the 1780s, the idea of Republican forms of democracy were not anywhere on the scale it is today. The majority of countries were monarchies or autocratic or theocracy. The idea of democracy itself was nowhere. His view was that once people see others with liberty, they're going to want it too. But what is liberty? We've heard the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what does it mean? What freedoms do you have today that you feel are most important? Does liberty mean you can do whatever you want, whenever you want? Obviously not. But how does the Constitution support your freedom today? And how does your freedom relate to others? Well, as a minor, you're going to have your freedoms do not include all of the same things as they do for me. Freedom in the United States is different than freedom in the Islamic Republic of Iran, Saudi Arabia, China, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. There's differences in every country. There's differences in freedoms between the United States and Canada, although both would say that they have liberty and freedom. The formation of our government happened over many years of planning, brave actions, and written documents. The new government, created step by step from the Declaration of Independence to the Article of Confederation to the Constitution, was now ready to be tested. The next step was to put the words of the documents into action. This new government of the United States needed to elect a president, write laws, raise taxes, and create a military. Since its beginning, we Americans have tested and amended our Constitution many times over the decades, but the original plan is still in full use. The Constitution of the United States today is a system that works well despite the fact that it is the oldest framework of government in the world. The first presidential election under the Constitution was held on January 7th, 1789. George Washington was elected president and John Adams as vice president. None of the presidential electors voted against Washington. What's interesting about that statement is in the early days of the Republic, the two people running for president, the person who got the most votes, electoral votes, mind you, was elected president. The runner-up, the vice president. So you didn't have Biden and Harris or Trump and Pence. In 2020, the election results would have been Biden as president and Trump as vice president. Boy, that would have been a show. The government met for the first time in New York in March 17. New York? That's right. The capital has not always been Washington, D.C. In fact, in 1776, Washington, D.C. didn't exist. It was completely designed and built to be our national capital. And someday you should take the time to research a man by the name of L'Enfant. The first acts of government. The Congress passed the Judiciary Act of 1789. This law said the Supreme Court would have 6 judges. We now have 9 justices, and there is a push to add more justices as we have more appellate courts. President Washington appointed John Jay as the first Chief Justice. Currently, John Roberts is the Chief Justice. He was appointed by George W. Bush. 2. Congress wrote and approved the Bill of Rights and sent it to the states for ratification. 3. The president formed the first cabinet, the group of leaders appointed to help him run the government. Edmund Randolph, the first Attorney General of the United States. Henry Knox, Secretary of War. Alexander Hamilton, Secretary of the Treasury. And Thomas Jefferson, Secretary of State. Of these, the Secretary of War is no longer a position. It is now known as the Secretary of Defense. 4. Alexander Hamilton, as Secretary of the Treasury, set up a tax system that was approved by Congress and President Washington. The duties and rights of citizens stated in the Constitution are your duties and rights. The Bill of Rights and the amendments that have been added to the Constitution protect you and your freedoms as an American citizen. There have been many issues, problems, and differences that we have settled over the course of our history as the United States of America. Today, our citizens do not agree on many public issues. Currently, there are many problems facing our state and our country, and our population has very different opinions on the best solutions. It is important that our citizens are informed about public issues, able to examine different points of views, and make informed decisions regarding our future. You see some potential activities here. Should the states that surround the Great Lakes sell and ship their fresh water to other states in the Union? What might that look like? How would that be done? If sustainability is a concern across the world, can the population of areas with less water be sustained by water from those with more? Should economic and recreational needs of the desert regions of the United States be supported by those regions with more abundant water? Should the federal and national government pass a law to force Great Lakes states to send their water to the Southwest? This would be an example of a political debate, and it has been mentioned at different points in recent decades. You see more stuff with the activities. Feel free to take the time to read that. The core democratic values, our next focus here. Life. Each person has the right to the protection of his or her life. Liberty. Liberty includes the freedom to believe what you want, freedom to choose your own friends, and to have your own ideas and opinions, to express your ideas in public, the right of people to meet in groups, the right to have any lawful job or business. The pursuit of happiness. Each person can find happiness in their own way, so long as they do not step on the rights of others. Justice. All people should be treated fairly in getting the advantages and disadvantages of our country. No group or person should be favored. Common good. People should work together for the good of all. The government should make laws that are good for everyone. Equality. Everyone should get the same treatment regardless of where your parents or grandparents were born, race, religion, or how much money you have. All people have political, social, and economic equality. Diversity. Differences in language, dress, food, where parents or grandparents were born, race, and religion are not only allowed but accepted as important to the strength of the United States. Popular sovereignty. The power of the government comes from the citizens. Patriotism. A devotion to our country and the core democratic values in words and deeds. Rule of law. Both the government and the people must obey the law. And the majority of the remaining section here was about making an argument about should we have to ship our water to the Southwest? And we're not going to do that today, but that may come up as an option in just a few weeks when we're going through our next sections. But before we wrap up today, I would like to play this segment about core democratic values. It might be a little more entertaining than me having read them to you, and it's from SchoolTube. So I'm going to go ahead and play this for you.
Core democratic values taught in schools, practiced in real life. So I think we should start off with none other than the democratic value of life. Is a person's right to live. You could get in big trouble if you're beating up kids, so chill. You better ease on up. Keep your hands to yourself and quit trying to act tough. Liberty, freedom for you and me. Between you and me, I can at least name 3. Personal, think what you want to. No government control. Political, your right to vote in election polls. Economical, your right to buy, sell, trade, and get a job without the government say so. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. Like Will Smith, you're entitled to the pursuit of happiness. If you haven't seen the movie, well, this is what it is. Happiness, you can get it however you want to get it, just as long as no crimes are being committed. Patriotism, that's a democratic value. Showing love for our country and the values. Truth, the government cannot lie to us. We need to take some time to learn how to trust. Justice, no type of individual or organizations are treated different no matter what it is. And common good, it's like you benefiting from the material on my CD like you should. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. You want more core democratic values? I got 3. I'll start the 3rd verse with diversity. No matter how you dress, the culture you be, language you speak, you have a right to celebrate in what you believe. Popular sovereignty, do you know what that means? We're the ultimate authority. The government is powered by the people like you and me. They shouldn't be ignoring me. You, we. Last but not least, equality should be treated the same no matter race, sex, or creed. Democracy, these are the core democratic values in the life that you lead. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. What's important to you? If you ask what's important to me, I'll tell you. Core democratic values, rights of a citizen written in our nation's rules. What's important to you? You.
We've reached the conclusion of this section. You should now look in your Google Classroom for questions to answer. If you have any things that you would like to discuss of this, please bring that to the table during class or reach out to me at mireland@psychchipschool.net. Have a minute, Gijigat, Minwa, Lama P.